Good morning. My name is Yibby, and today I'm going to be making a little gothic bookmark. I recently started making more products for my Etsy, which I haven't updated in almost a year. I used to make dolls primarily, and a couple of bookmarks, but I didn't really advertise myself much, so I only got one sale, to be honest. And now I kind of want to try again, this time incorporating YouTube and trying to see what kind of following I can build with my art. I still feel like I'm trying to find my style when it comes to the things that I make on this channel. Definitely, I love to draw cute animals, but I also love drawing spooky, dark, and almost gothic-like things. And so a part of me is torn because I don't really know where the middle ground is. I love to draw in black and white, but I also love to do colorful, beautiful pink and purple illustrations. I think those are my favorite colors at the moment, besides yellow. But deep down, I've always been somebody who prefers black and white. I love the way an ink drawing looks, with heavy shading or lots of blacks and heavy tones and things like that. And so I wanted to incorporate a mix of that within my channel. I want to show the different types of art styles that I have explored throughout my life and see where I am now, because I've been drawing for a long time, but I have gone through periods where I don't really know where I'm going with my art, and I don't really know the direction that I want to take it in. And it can be really hard to not beat yourself up, because all you want to do is just make art sometimes, and the ideas or the style doesn't work for you, or maybe you're just not happy with your skill level. And there's so many variables that can change somebody's art style or change the way we make art. And I am very interested in exploring these options, these ideas, especially with this channel. I think what I really want from it is just to be able to talk about the things that I'm passionate about, art being the biggest thing, regardless of whatever I do. I plan on doing more than just bookmarks. I want to make stickers, I want to sculpt, I want to do all kinds of crafts and things that I love to do personally. Recently I've been into crocheting, so maybe I'll do a crochet vlog later. But for now, I think I'll just stick to drawing and just sharing what I have and hoping that anybody who watches it enjoys it. As for the drawing itself, I really wanted to draw a pig character. I haven't drawn a pig yet, and I think pigs are very, very cute, and I've always wanted one. But I know I will probably never have one, and so I will just draw them. And for this drawing, I wanted to make her a little bit more of like a subtle goth. Maybe she's just enjoying thinking, well, the original idea I had was that she's thinking of maybe a crime thriller book, maybe a romance gone wrong, something like that. It's kind of hard to figure out what to draw on a bookmark because I always want to make it book related and incorporate books into it somehow, but I know I don't have to. I think it's just when I see a bookmark, I'm like, I need to make a book on it. I need to put a book on it. But I think for my later drawings, I will do something a little bit different. Maybe something a little bit more creative. It is almost Halloween, so I might draw another couple of more gothic or creepy or spooky types of bookmarks, and I'll have them up on my Etsy relatively soon once I can get a small batch in. I plan on only selling a few at a time just to kind of keep me from getting burnt out. I really enjoyed drawing this piece. It's kind of fun to get into an inking session where I can just let go. And something I love about simple character designs is that when you are practicing inking, or if you're learning how to Use any type, even if you're doing traditional inking, it can be very tricky. And with digital, it's a little bit more forgiving because you can always go back and fix your mistakes. But I always recommend everybody who wants to get into inking, if you can, and if you're able to try it traditionally, because it does help improve your skills overall when you're able to transfer it digitally. If you're able to kind of get over the learning curve of the program you're using. And eventually, you learn how to use your brushes. And right now I have a couple of custom brushes that I've used, but they're mostly the default brushes. I just kind of edit them a little bit. I don't really like, no, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of fancy brushes on Procreate, but I really only stick to about 3 or 4 of them, honestly, when I'm making an illustration. I think the more I add to it, the more texture I'm adding, or the more brushes I use, the more I get in my head about, does this look right? Does that look right? And all the textures can sometimes confuse me, where I feel like a simple black and white drawing is so easy to read and it just works for me. I definitely recommend Procreate, but I also have used other programs before. I love Sketchbook Pro. It is free and it is a wonderful program, and you can get it on your iPad if you have an iPad. You can also get it for a desktop as well, and I have used that many times in my past, and in my opinion, other than Procreate, it has some of my favorite inking tools, where the ink tool feels the closest to like a fountain pen, if you've known how to ink with that before. And so I recommend that program too. So I might do a drawing. I actually might do some drawings in some free programs just to kind of show that you don't have to pay for a program just to get a good drawing in. You can use free apps out there and get really good quality art. It just sometimes takes a little bit longer, and that's just unfortunately the downside. But thankfully, I have a lot of great tips for this, and I am really excited to share some of them. And I like to think my biggest tip that I have overall is, drawing is a reflection of you. And when you draw, you don't have to focus so much on getting the details right. If you practice anatomy and you practice life drawing, you will naturally develop an understanding of perspectives and shapes and forms. And whenever you draw something simple, like a little character, it's easier to put together, and portions tend to make more sense. However, that's not to say that art has to be perfect. You can make, I have personally made what I like to call ugly art, where it is just scribbles and I make them look aesthetic. I will draw on a page just the ugliest things I can think of, creatures, little monsters, and I just spend time shading, editing them, and turning them into something nice. But it all starts from just drawing. And that advice I find is a little tricky, because I feel that when you're an artist, practice is key, but not just regular practice. You have to know how to practice in order to get the improvement that you want. I definitely recommend looking up tutorials on YouTube. That's how I started off when I was really young. And back then there was very little. But now there's a plethora of different types of techniques and ways you can study. And I highly recommend anybody checking those videos out. I don't really have any channels in particular that are in my mind, but I know that there are some out there, and for the most part, every time I've struggled with something, I've always been able to find an idea or inspiration through other art or other channels that I've watched. For me, it's not so much art channels, but I love business channels, and I love learning how to grow my own business. It's one of my kind of bigger dreams to own my own little shop, and I am working towards it. This is, I feel like, the beginning of an era in my life where I'm making big changes, and it's exciting, it's scary, but I'm having a lot of fun with it overall. I think another thing I would love to talk about is mental health when it comes to making art. I used to use art a lot to vent and get my sad and angry thoughts out. And now it's a lot more positive than it used to be, but I have always wanted to explore that concept of vent art. And I think this little drawing here, as simple as it is, was kind of a form of vent art for me, because I love books, I love reading, but sometimes I just feel like I am more lost in my own imagination um, than I am into the actual book. Um, Whatever I'm reading, I tend to get way overly invested. My most recent book that I've read was Paranesi by Susanna Clark. It was a wonderful book. It has an amazing story, and it made me genuinely reflect on a lot of things that I've gone through within my life. And so I would love to actually make an art piece as an homage to that book one of these days. But I definitely recommend anybody who's looking for a good book, especially if you're somebody who has dealt with maybe some trauma, or going through a hard time in life. I think it's a really great book that just feels good. And other than that, I kind of got carried away with the shading on this. I did not know what I wanted to do for the background. I was debating coloring it, but my initial idea was in black and white, so I just kind of added some grays here and there and turned it into a screen tone, because in Procreate you have the option to do halftones, and so I just did that, and I think it kind of gives it a little bit more of a slight comic book look to it. A trick I do have, if you do use halftones, in order to get rid of that sort of, I want to say, like, flickering that you see when you zoom in and out, is to use the Gaussian tool. Gaussian, I don't know the word. Essentially the blur tool, and very lightly blur it, and it should bring all those pixels together while you're still able to keep that gradient going, and you can still see the dots within the drawing itself. So that's just a little tip that I have. Well, I'm nearing the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it very much. It was a lot of fun to make, and I am having a lot of fun making videos for my YouTube. I think I'm going to be posting on Mondays and Thursdays, so hopefully you'll see from me soon. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.